Hello and welcome to Sensable Singing. I'm Allison Taylor, and this is our 21st day of Winter Solstice. This is the Rest and Reflect group class on the 21st of December. Thank you so much for joining us. So take a moment to make yourself comfortable. I'm going to tell you what we'll be doing together today, what you might need. So if you're tuning in on the replay, you may want to pause here and just scurry and gather some things that you might want to have available for our time together. The focus of this class is rest. We'll be together for about 45 minutes. So just tell yourself that you've given yourself this time to be with the earth and yourself and your body in community. Those of you watching this on the replay, we also feel your presence here in the moment. Welcome. So first, I have some slides, some photos to show you, and I'll talk a little bit about what I'm lightly and playfully calling the anatomy of rest. This is not an anatomy class, and I will invite you to check in with your own body and keep coming back to yourself as we're looking at these images together. Think of it like visual aids, visual support for connecting into yourself. It's nothing that you need to take in here. In fact, just bring your hands to your forehead, near the front of your head. This is where our processing, analyzing, thinking, speaking, verbal part of ourselves, of your brain, lives, here in the front. And so we are actually inviting this part of you, maybe just gently wipe your fingers across your forehead. We're inviting this part of your being to take a break. This cognitive thinking, planning part. It's so important for many, many aspects of life and daily life and work. And for today, we're inviting this back part of your brain. So if you bring your hands to the back of your skull and the back of your neck, we're inviting this part of you to be in today's class. This is the receiving part of your brain, the sensory information that comes in through your eyes, nose, tight taste, and ears. That processing part of your brain is at the back of you. And so this is the part that we're supporting today. So as we're taking in some images together, I invite you and encourage you to just receive that information. Even anything that you take in visually at the first part of class, just allow yourself to receive it and trust that it's going in, and it will percolate in you. That information will percolate in you and take its time to work its way down further and further into your consciousness. That you don't need to work hard from here to see or understand or get it. And after we take a look at these images, we'll do a locating together. I want to share some things that I have here to set us up for class. So I'm going to, and then we'll do some work on the floor. So now I'm going to give you some guidelines or guidance around what you might want to have available if it's possible to you. So a folded up blanket or large cushion or a pillow or two pillows, two kind of sleeping pillows would probably be good. We're going to be using this in our floor time. And then also I have this lavender buckwheat hull pillow. So you might want a folded up blanket or towel or a couple of paperback books, something about this height to have to support your head. And you might also want just a good old blanket or wrap in case you get chilled while we're lying on the floor. Sometimes that can happen when we're lying quietly. And I have my candle, which I realize you can't see, just up here. So as it is the winter solstice, and we are celebrating right on the cusp of moving into longer days and welcoming back the light, I have had my candle lit all morning today, just to be with the darkness and also the nourishing womb-like cradling of the dark and long nights. And then my candle, sorry, that abrupt sound was my phone saying hello to us, falling on the floor. My candle as a reminder that we are welcoming in light. There's darkness and light. So you might want to gather over the next couple of moments, if you haven't already, some reminders of the earth and our connection to the earth. And you may want to have your candle with you as well so that you can see it during class. So you can pause the video now and get those things if you like. So I'll do a mini show and tell. I have a crystal to remind me of the earth. I have many plants and a tree behind me as well. I have a geode. And I have a pine cone that I got from a walk outside. So I have these set up around me, just as a reminder of my connection to the earth, to ground me so that I can be free to move and play. And I also have a human connection reminder with me. I first became connected to the rhythms of the winter solstice through a dear teacher named Anne McMillan. She's no longer with us. She passed away a few years ago. But Anne was a high school teacher, and I kept in touch with her and formed a friendship, a really sweet friendship with her. And in the last years of her life, I spent time with her at her home, which was surrounded by nature, and she was very connected to the rhythms of the earth and nature. And so I've brought a picture of Anne today. So she sits with me in her very familiar earth-themed attire, and she just smiles knowingly with me. So Anne is here with us. Maybe you have someone here with you in your heart, in your mind for this class today, who's a companion in your work. So I'll share the slides with you now. You can take a moment, make yourself comfortable for taking in a few pictures and images, and I'll share those with you now. So this is a welcome into my space. This is our front door, actually, with cedar and evergreen swag. And pine and cedar cuttings are very, in certain traditions around the winter solstice, are a symbol of the solstice, especially here in the northern hemisphere where these coniferous trees are, in Ontario anyhow. These trees are very emblematic of this part of the world where I live. So I welcome you into this space. Just to imagine if this is an enjoyable scent to you. It is to me the smell of pine and boughs of cedar the smells of a forest, the smells and sounds of pine needles crunching on the ground. For me, this is very pleasant. I wonder for you, what's your yummy winter solstice soundscape and scentscape? And this is my candle that I have lit to support our time together, and the little twinkle lights I have set up around my space. And the wildlife of this time of year, the wildlife associated in particular with nighttime. So I think of owls and bats, maybe scurrying creatures. I chose an owl today as my companion, wildlife companion. Wisdom and knowing and all-seeing. They can turn their heads almost all the way around and see all around them. And we're just coming out of a full moon. We had a full moon on the 18th, so just a few days ago. So the light of the moon at the darkest time of night, sparkling on the snow. And the tree whose roots reach deep into the earth through the snow and the cold ground, the frozen ground, deep, deep into the earth, spreading far beyond what we can see. And the further those roots spread, the more we can connect into the branches. The further the roots, the more nutrients they can draw up from the ground, up into the trunk and out through the limbs. So just take a moment to connect to your roots and your branches. And just to feel your connection to the earth, not only where your physical self meets the earth, but in your imagined sensing self, finding your roots, reaching into the earth, so that you can expand and reach up towards the sky and the light. Just breathing into your roots. Allowing the flow to come up through the ground, right up through you and out the top of you, so that actually for a moment you can be boundless in a way, or within your physical bounds, sensing that you are this container for life force. Just as the tree has life force and sap and moisture running through its roots and trunk and leaves, so do you, through your legs, feet, legs, and trunk, and arms and hands, through your neck and skull and beyond. So noticing that we can have polarities of energy. So with the red arrows, the outreaching with direction, and sometimes frazzled output of energy, where we look out and see what's out around us and feel, reach out to touch with our hands and touch with our toes and feet outward. We speak and send our sound out and communicate out. But also with the blue arrows, we also receive. We take in. We are nourished. We nourish and are nourished. We nourish others and we take nourishment. Just to notice your capacity to be with both of those energies. Outside of you, there's a divide between you and it, or you and the other. What's going to happen next? What just happened before? And then what's happening here with me now, in my interior self, my interior world. So your structure, if we come to this central skeletal, your bone structure, your is it scaffolding? What would we call it? Your foundation. It's flexible. So we can see in these two examples, there are many examples of what shapes we can be in our bodies and how we can take up space. But in these two examples, we can see the flexibility of our beings and our uprightness. And that sometimes in the image on the right, we can have a compression through our being if we're tired or feeling unwell. If we've been pushing ourselves beyond our limits, we can become compressed in a way in our bodies. And on the left, we also have this ability of being springy and flexible in our uprightness. And there's still this natural curve and shock absorption of the spine. So just to be with yourself as you take in this image and see, where are you springy? Where are you less springy? There may be compression or contraction in you. There are certain activities that can emphasize this curved nature of our being, this curved capacity of our spine and our stature. One of them is looking at a phone. And so we can see as we move from the left to the right on these images, that there's a possibility to uncurve, to uncrunch, unscrunch your spine, to find your inner springiness, your inner tree. So you can take your fist right now. I know you can't see me, I don't think, in the images. Maybe you can. But if you take your fist right now and make a light fist, just a gentle grasp, and if you pull your knuckles back towards the back of your arm, like the image on the right, this is an example of what can happen when we are compressed or when we jut out the chin. You can even hear in my voice that it changes when I'm pushing out my chin. Notice as you bring your fist back and down towards your elbow, what happens in your forearm. Bring the other hand to your forearm and bring that fist back and down towards your elbow and up. And notice what happens in the muscle of your arm as you do that. For me, I notice my muscle tightens, my muscle tone changes, my muscle gets shorter and contracts as it engages. And as I bring my fist up, forward and up, so that my knuckles are moving away from my elbow, the musculature in my arm becomes supple and soft, not flaccid, but lengthened. The same thing happens in the musculature of your back. So along from the base of your skull, on the sides of your neck, and along your spine, and down into your lower back, and even your buttocks and hips, and down into your legs. When your head gets habitually pulled back and down like that, or drooping forward, there's a compression and a contraction in the musculature of your whole back. And sometimes when we're in this shape for long periods of time, that just becomes our normal feeling and our normal orientation. And the muscles can become shortened for a time. So our class today will be about gently releasing and bringing a lengthening and widening intention through those muscles of your back. And we'll do that by lying on the floor. But you may even be able to invite that intention into your being as you're sitting here taking in these images. So the location of your head-spine joint, many people think if you bring your hand onto the back of your neck and you feel down to a sticky outy bump, that's called your bull vertebra. Many people think that the joint of your head and spine, that movement, is there. They think it's that part of the neck or somewhere else on your neck. But actually, it's much higher and more further forward, almost between your ears. So I have a picture that zooms in on that. So the balancing point of your head, the center of gravity of your head, it's actually closer to your eyes behind your nose. So if you nod your head a little bit, that's the gravity point. And the point of pivot, or the atlanto-occipital joint, is actually much further forward than the back of your skull. If you bring your hand to the back of your skull, the base of your neck, and then come inwards towards more the center. That is the point of pivot. If you just do tiny circles with your nose, imagine pivoting from that point. And if you think of your head releasing away, forward and upward, away from that point, it brings about a lengthening and a suppleness of the musculature at the back of your neck. In this image, the habitual pulling back and down of your head can put some strain and contraction on the muscles of your neck. And then, of course, the muscles of your back and shoulders, they're all interconnected. Just an example of even bringing the head slightly forward from your chin or from your nose can take your neck part of your spine out in front of your body, as opposed to allowing your inner springiness. It's not necessarily about aligning ears over shoulders over hips, but rather finding for you, where do you feel the absence of strain or compression in your back and spine and neck. And in this image, don't worry about any of that writing, but I just want to draw your attention to the blue in between your vertebrae. These are fluid-filled discs that separate each vertebrae. Like, how well organized are our bodies? It's amazing to me. And they provide a springiness, a cushioning, so that it isn't bone on bone, but there's a cushioning between each vertebrae. And again, ignore all of the writing here, but on the image on the left, you can see that the discs are designed to bulge out the sides when we are being flexible in our spines. So if you find your inner fish or snake movement for a moment, there's this lateral movement of your spine, and those discs are designed to cushion. The fluid-filled discs are designed to cushion. And the image on the left, again, ignore the scary writing of bone spur and narrow disc and osteoarthritic spine. Ignore that writing for a moment. I just want to draw your attention to this image that sometimes these discs can take wear and tear over time and get narrowed. And this can happen we have synovial fluid around our joints, in our knees, for example, and fluid in the shoulder, the joints of the arm structure, and these fluids can get worn over time without recuperation. So today's class in lying down is about restoring some balance in the musculature of your back, for example, so that when we ease the contraction of that musculature, it takes pressure off of our joints. And eventually, with daily rest like this, you can restore or at least prevent further wear and tear on your joints, bringing some ease and space and length into your way of using yourself. So in many Alexander technique websites, for example, you'll see images like this, where we're thinking of allowing some upward fizziness or lengthening along the spine. It's not a doing or a pulling up, you can try that, but rather an unscrunching. It's like you're scrunching a towel in your hand and you just let go of the towel, or you're holding a ribbon in your hand and then you just take hold of the top of the ribbon and let it unfurl, and it just comes into its length. That's what we're looking for, an unscrunching, not a pulling up. And then a widening. So look at I think it's beautiful, the direction of some of the musculature of your back, up from your tail or buttocks and outwards to wrap around you. There's not just east-west muscles, but some diagonal expansion, length and width and depth available. I love this image of a stream of water coming up to support your head. Your spine comes up to support your head, and your head is just resting on top of your spine. And when you have this length and ease of your spine, this water continually supporting your head is able to release so that it can turn and look around. You can look around with your eyes. Your ribs are free to move on your spine and sternum when we have uncompression. I also wanted to show this direction, that when we're lying down, we have the support of the ground underneath us, and we also have this ongoing direction along the spine supporting the head. So we're not just flaccid on the ground. Sometimes you need to just yield to the ground. But in constructive rest, we're looking for this alert restfulness or a restful alertness along your spine. So at horizontal, you can have the same sense along your spine and back. So again, in standing, we're not looking to pull your lower back back or your neck back, but rather as you let this effervescent unscrunching upward or outward through your whole stature, you can also allow an expansion back into your back, allowing your neck to release back as your head releases forward and up and away. Multi-directional expansion. And I wanted to show you horizontally because in the top image, it's like we're lying on the floor, but we're kind of just not alive. We don't have our inner liveliness. But in the bottom image, we can have an outward direction along the spine and limbs, as well as releasing back to the floor and allowing your neck to release back. Again, it's different than pulling or pushing your neck back. Really, it's allowing it to release, allowing. One of my very amazing colleagues just created this image. So we're going to be lying on the floor similar to this shape. And these are some conscious directives you could offer yourself, or intentions you could offer. As I lie here on the floor, my back is lengthening and is being supported by the ground. It's actively being supported at every moment. My neck is able to release, perhaps releasing back towards the floor as my head releases away, or my head releases away so that my neck can release. My head is supported, my knees are releasing to the ceiling. My feet can also be lengthening and widening. So I have a lengthening and widening, expanding, supported base at all times. If you're sitting on the floor right now, you may feel that through your butt. That your butt is lengthening, supporting, being supported. And these shaded areas by another Alexander colleague represent the points of contact with the ground. And you may notice slightly different points of contact as we lie down together. So here's one of the shapes I'm going to suggest that we work in today. Optional, and if you do this video twice, you can just fast forward to the activity part of the video and take this shape. So you can either be flat on the floor with your head on a book, or what we're going to try together, having your shoulder blades and upper back resting on a bolster or a cushion or blanket, and your head supported on a pillow. It almost looks like a curve. This is called the primary curve. It's a very gentle curve of your back, but it's intended to allow, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor. I think you can. It's intended to allow, this part of you to release back. So when you start, you may have quite a bit of space here, and we're not looking to have this part of your back touch the floor. But rather to think of, as you breathe, letting your ribs swell back, release, and soften towards the floor. They may not go to the floor, but it's to release that part of your back. And also the psoas, which are deep muscles that run from the inner thigh and up through the hip pelvis area and then attached at the spine. Those deep muscles, this is a psoas release. They're called your psoas muscles. You don't have to know those names, but even just taking in this image, letting it wash over you. These are some physiotherapist colleagues. Allowing your back to release back towards the floor. Sometimes having this space can give a different sense of release. And And then to come back to yourself, come back to your tree, finding how your roots are in this moment. So I'm going to stop the screen share. I'm going to invite you to just be with yourself for a moment. And if we're going to we'll sit up on the floor for a few moments before we come to the floor. And just bring your hands to your eyes. You can gently close your eyes and rub your face. So I had invited you, even with awareness, to take in quite a lot of images. So I just want to invite you to allow your eyes to rest. Maybe rub your face a little bit if that feels good to you. Get up into your scalp and your hair. Sometimes it feels really great to pull your hair. Let's go to your nose and lips. Don't forget your ears and your neck. And then just with your fingertips, just pat along your torso, your body. So I want to come back and forth between quiet, sustained, restful recuperation, and also this snapping or clapping or flicking around you, so that your nervous system isn't just bringing your parasympathetic rest and digest system online, but it's also activating or checking in with your sympathetic nervous system, your more reactive, quick react nervous system, which gets you ready, both sides of you. So in the theme of Winter Solstice, the light and the dark, the calming, soothing, sustaining, and invigorating part of you. So just to take a moment to see how you feel after that brief check-in. How's your inner tree, your roots? Supported by the ground. Here I am, as I am. Just noticing how you are in this moment. Nothing to change or fix or improve. This is your time to do with as you wish. You can be with me and my guidance, and you can do your own thing. Go rogue at any time. Here I am, as I am, in the world as it is, in this day as it is, in this class as it is, pleasant, unpleasant, I get it, I don't quite get it. Supported by the planet. You maybe bring your hands together. One hand is you meeting the planet, the other hand is the earth meeting you. So you are physically supported by the planet, by the floor, by your couch or chair or bed. And of the planet, the air, the fire, warmth, fluid, water, groundwater, sap, life force, carbon, bone, stone. In this moment in time, so with the day you've had behind you, the day and week and month you will have ahead of you, you are in this moment. You are always here in this moment in time. Awake. Again, you may bring your hands to your head and just to see like what part of you can be awake, the receiving part and the thinking part, both. Awake to my state of being. And you may find a sound to bring you into the next portion of class as we start to explore together. I like to use this sound to transition. See what sound you'd like to make. And I want to invite you to bring your own hands to your throat for a moment. We're going to wake up some vibration through humming. If this sound of a closed M, open mouth hum, if that's available to you, we're going to use that sound. You may also want to do a voiced consonant like a Z, Z, or a V, V, or an NG. Take about 10 seconds to experiment with those sounds to find what sound works for you. Bringing your hands to your throat or chest or face to feel that vibration. So we'll take that 10 seconds now. What you're also feeling for is which sound is going to be the most easeful for you for today. It might change day to day. So if I have my hands here on my neck, for example, my throat, and I try a zzz, I feel some tightening in my jaw in order to make that sound. And so for today, I'm choosing a hum on an M with an open mouth space inside, because I feel that when I make that sound, the least engagement or activity of my muscles happen. Humming is a wonderful tool for sounding. It's called an SOVT, or a semi-occluded vocal tract exercise. And what that means very, very basically is that we're balancing air pressure above and below the level of your vocal folds so that they're able to meet easily. The air moving through adducts them, brings them together, and they start to vibrate, and that's how we have phonation. There's not more pressure from above or below. It's a very, very basic explanation. It's also been shown through the work of Stephen Porges and polyvagal theory that humming, and anyone who's familiar with somatic experiencing, or Peter Levine's work may also be familiar with using humming as a way to regulate, to invite your parasympathetic nervous system to the party, to come back online. If you've been in a state of sympathetic nervous system response or stimulation or activation in this way, humming can be a way to invite, to stimulate your vagus nerve. So I've given you some names if you'd like to do some more research. And humming can also just be a yummy thing to do together. So I would suggest that you choose one comfortable pitch and strong, steady release of sound. And if you want to fluctuate in hills and valleys with your sound, up and down in pitch, you can. Do what you need to do. So we're going to hum together for about 30 seconds. And I would invite you to move your hands around your body as you do so. Think about what your message to the earth is in your hum. And we'll get started. Continue your hum, allowing a new breath to fall in between, And your next outgoing breath will be released on a hum. I'll take 10 more seconds, eyes open or closed. Slowly allow your hum to dissipate. And notice how you feel in your body. And take this feeling with you to come to the floor. If you'd like to join us in lying on your bolster or blanket, you can set that up now. You're going to lie on your back. If you have your bolster, you're going to bring your shoulder blades to the edge of the bolster so that the middle back, your middle back and your lowest ribs especially, are going to be off the bolster. So there's a little or a lot of space between you and the floor here. And bring your folded up towel or your book and place it behind your head. You can have your knees bent or outstretched. I'm going to start with mine bent. And we're going to be here for about 5 minutes. And I'm going to offer some intention or invitation. And if you want to mute the video and have your own quiet, you can do so. This is a being shape rather than a doing shape. You may choose to have your eyes open or closed, depending on what you need in yourself. Notice your points of contact with the earth. Where are your roots? Through your feet, lengthening and widening as they meet the earth. There's a supple kiss between you and the earth. A mutual embrace, melting into each other's embrace. Through your feet, your buttocks, your lower back and sacrum, tail, shoulder blades, upper back, upper arms and elbows. Notice this supple embrace of meeting. And the back of your head. Allowing your neck to soften, the back of your neck to release into its length. There has been a scrunching there. You can let your head nod away, supported by your book or blanket, so that your neck can release. As your air moves in and out of you, this automatic process of breathing, allowing yourself to be breathed by the earth, by the air around you, by your body. to melt towards the floor, towards the earth. So that your whole stature is being invited to lengthen and widen and to deepen. Where can you allow yourself to lengthen? And where can you allow yourself to widen? How do you experience that in yourself? How do you experience a deepening? I'm going to bring my legs out long for a moment. If there's some image that we looked at together at the beginning of class that's with you now, let it come to you. It'll come just quickly without you having to move into that forward part of your brain to retrieve it. Just see what comes to you. Just noticing how you are with yourself in this moment. Heels releasing, feet lengthening and widening. Lower back supported by the ground and the earth. Legs releasing away from your torso. Head supported, neck releasing, unscrunching. For me, I have the water image through my torso, like a geyser through the center of me. Extending out my arms, extending out my legs, out my fingers and toes. This geyser or stream or river. So I'm going to be quiet for a moment, about a minute. So you can just be in your own space and sound. We'll start that minute now. Slowly coming back to the contact with the ground, feeling the air on your skin, and start to wiggle or not just wiggle your fingers and toes, but just feeling the air through your fingers and toes and limbs. So I want to invite you, if you are on your bolster, I'm going to invite you in a moment to remove the bolster so that you come to lie on the floor with your head on your book. So I'm going to do that by first rolling onto my side with my head resting on my book or my rolled up blanket. I'm just going to pull the bolster out from under me. And then I'm going to roll back onto my back and come to rest with my head on my pillow. I'm in semi-supine. You may be fully supine with your legs outstretched. Just take a moment here to see how you feel. Maybe invite your eyes to flutter open if they're not already, and take in your space. Receive your space. So you don't need to reach out through your eyes for this moment. Many of us have a way of reaching out through our eyes and pulling our heads forward through our visual sense. And so what is it like to really feel your head cradled? Feel your body cradled by the earth. And through your eyes and ears, you're receiving the world. Kind of like a baby does, like we did when we were babies. Just to be here for a few more moments. And again, like your baby self, allow your hands and feet to start feeling the floor. And with your hands and feet and legs, start to feel your own self. Just getting a gentle waking up. You may rub your face again. You may hold your feet. Now in some yoga traditions, this is called happy baby, where you're holding the outside of your feet with your hands, or holding the big toe with your fingers. But letting your feet feel each other and feel your legs, maybe patting, rolling side to side. So eventually you're going to use these exploring the world movements to bring yourself up to sitting. Well, really take your time to play here. And then eventually, you can even pause the video and take way longer, but eventually you're going to bring your limbs under you to push yourself up, like you did when you were a little wee baby, with your limbs underneath you to bring yourself up into the world. And you can come back to sitting. You may bring yourself back to lying down if that feels better for you, but just to notice how you feel. Let that awareness come to you. It's like not something you need to go to that front part of your brain or thinking part of you, but just to feel into this moment. What sensations come to you? And that brings us to our time together. And so as a way of parting and closing, I want to invite, again, just tapping into the magic around you. The fairy realm, if you believe in such things, or even if you don't, like if it's on the edge of your understanding or belief, as it is for me, just snapping or flicking into the space around you. Again, inviting that sympathetic part of your system, the active engagement, invigorating part of you to the party after some parasympathetic vagus nerve activation. So we just want to bring that balance or dance between the two parts of us into play, the dark and the light. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this 21-ish day journey, meeting together on the 21st to honor the winter solstice in whatever way that has meaning for you. And I thank you for your presence and your energy. I always love to hear from you, so if you're tuning into this much later, much after the fact, please do let me know what resonated with you. What are you taking away and percolating with over the next maybe 6 months? If we meet again in the summer solstice, who knows? But just to see, I'd love to know what you've been playing with over that time. So thank you. I bow to you and to the earth. Bow to my companion that was with me today in Anne, and to your companions that were with you. And I'll see you next time.